Now, until the outbreak of the First World War, the state was so little involved in economic and social life that the idea of family policy would never really have arisen. Of course, the fundamental functions of the state, protecting property, defence, law and order, this type of thing, are fundamental for civil society and the family to thrive. But there was no such thing as family policy as such. But as the state became more involved in economic life, and especially after the Second World War, when the welfare state took a large leap to become much larger and more significant, it did so in a way such that the family, rather than the individual, was the basis of almost all public policy. And it was very clear that this was Beveridge's intention as well. The family is the earliest and most direct vehicle for socialization, for cooperation, for sharing, for mutual reliance, and so on. It's the basic unit within society in which we share goods, distribute income, and experience what economists would call the division of labor. Indeed, you could say that they distribute resources, giving according to need and taking away according to the ability to pay. You could say it's a little unit of communism, if you like, and in that sense you could argue that political communism is a heresy in the proper sense of a truth taken out of context, but because it's an attempt to try to apply to the country as a whole something where the natural domain is the family. Now, unfortunately, public policy since really the 1970s, 1960s, probably the 1970s, has come to begin to discriminate against family formation and to do so quite decisively. And this has been a move which has been promoted by all political parties and all philosophies taken together. So the combination of levying tax on an individual basis and providing welfare benefits on the basis of family income lead to family formation being discriminated against financially, and in a significant way, and especially for the least well-off. So if two adults, for example, let's say a mother and father who previously lived apart, move into the same home together, one of them is earning $25,000 a year and the other $11,000 a year, not an untypical situation. There's no change at all in their tax bill, actually a tiny change because of the small transferable allowance, but a significant reduction in the amount of benefits that they receive. Other parts of the tax system, such as the withdrawal of benefits, stamp duty on second homes, doesn't affect that many people, but both of those things discriminate strongly against family formation. Nearly all developed countries in some way have a tax and a welfare system which operate on a consistent basis normally by levying tax on the basis of family income rather than individual income, and do so in a way that discriminates much less against family formation than our own system. That tax and welfare policy should be rebalanced to ensure that that primary vehicle for welfare, which is the family, is supported rather than penalised through the fiscal system.
However, the years of witnessing poverty exclusion and their impact on human beings, homelessness, family breakdown, mental illness, impel me to speak out, to share the truth of the lives of the people I have met. Two basic premises. Firstly, I stand by the fact that the welfare state was established to provide a safety net for those people in our society who are the most vulnerable, for whatever reason. I do not think that it's an out-of-date concept. The safety net is being removed under various headings: welfare reform, austerity, as well, of course, as affordability, of making work pay, when today 2/3 of the people receiving benefits are in working households. Which leads to my second premise. There has been a deliberateness, some go as far as saying cruelty, about the austerity agenda, and I think it is an agenda which is about making those who are least able to afford it to pay for the country's deficit, for which they have not been responsible. So let's look at some of the specifics, just snapshots of the state's most recent negative interactions with the family: welfare reform, Anyone who, with any knowledge of how the system worked in practice, welcomed the idea of reform, streamlining bureaucracy, introducing consistency in application of criteria, making the system more accessible for the most vulnerable people. What we didn't advocate for was benefit caps being imposed, leading to families being moved away from their support network, children's schools, workplaces. There has been an increase of over 50% in the number of families being arbitrarily moved out of London in the first 6 months of this year alone. The housing market, ludicrously low levels year on year of investment in affordable housing, failure to introduce rent regulation, leading to increased homelessness and more families being placed in temporary accommodation. Tonight, some 120,000 children will be sleeping in accommodation that is quite frankly bad for their health and their development, and they're by no means the only ones. That the others are probably not on anybody else's radar. The withdrawal of public services across the board has led to lots of things, but the one I'm concerned about often is the advice desert, where there is nowhere that anyone can go for informed, objective information and advice. I believe what we're witnessing is the state's deprioritisation of children and young people, with the consequence that they in turn are going to struggle to establish a family life, which should surely frighten us for the future, if not the now. All in all, I believe we are being called upon to be ambassadors of hope in these fairly desperate times, nationally and internationally. With the political will, with imagination, with commitment. It will take time, as it means the eradication of our ingrained habit of treating people differently.
Marriage Care is a national Catholic charity that's really been defined by a movement of thousands of professionally trained volunteers who over the past 72 years have been committed to delivering marriage and relationship education and support. They have put common good thinking into practice, making a real contribution to the good of society. Like all charities, we exist to serve the needs of our beneficiaries, and as a Catholic charity, we do so through the lens of our faith, illuminating the Christian belief that all human beings are loved by God and made in the image of God, and that the locus of human flourishing is our ability to respond to the divine impulse to love and to be loved. We believe that healthy marriages and relationships make for better lives and a stronger society. We believe that preventing couples separation and maintaining an intact family where healthy relationships can exist and grow in goodness is of fundamental importance to the flourishing of family life. We believe that supporting couple relationships is a matter of social justice, holding back the inequalities and injustice that can arise from family breakdown. Catholic social teaching suggests that the human race is a community of communities, the smallest community being the individual family, the basic cell of human society. CST postures that a well-constructed society will be one that gives priority to the integrity, the stability, the health of family life. But to avoid or airbrush out a couple relationships from the debate about family life overlooks, I think, a foundational opportunity to build the common good. Family life exists for better or for worse because of the couple relationship. And I would suggest that the shared life of a society in which everyone can flourish will be one that gives priority to the integrity, stability, and health of the couple relationship as the basic cell of human society. Good relationships and social connections keep us happier and healthier. Much less widely acknowledged, however, although just as true, is the fact that the quality of our intimate adult partnerships, our couple relationships, has material and measurable consequences for our lives and those around us, affecting the emotional, cognitive, physical development of our children, our capacity to work and to be fulfilled in work, our physical and mental health as we get older. So if we're serious about the common good, then we must recognize that good quality marriages and relationships have material consequences for all of us. Couple relationships hold an important key to building social capital, so the concept of relationship poverty also needs our attention. It can be defined as the lack of relationship capability, the skills and circumstances needed to form and sustain cohesive and harmonious relationships. Today, nearly 3 million people are in distressed relationships. In a survey of over 4,500 children seen by CAMHS, family relationship problems were by far the biggest factor in their mental health. Relationship poverty is a barrier to the common good and is both the driver of material poverty and the consequence of it. So how can the state help? What responsibilities does it have here? Well, I think the state needs to keep a healthy distance. It was Clement Attlee's government that first recognised the state's responsibility to support couple relationships, but to do so through organisations like Marriage Care, who had the social capital and community trust to enter this private relational space. It's what we need more than anything. I believe the shared life of a society in which everyone can flourish will be one that gives priority to the integrity, the stability, the health of the couple relationship, and the alleviation and prevention of relationship poverty.
I want to put the child at the centre of my presentation. That was my remit as the first Children's Commissioner for England.
Hold it a bit close to your mouth.
Closer? Is that better? As the first Children's Commissioner for England to speak for the best interests of 11 million children of England. And so I want to set the scene by showing you the cover of yesterday's Daily Mirror. Here is a whole page with the title, "Mummy died, Daddy has lost his job, can I get work sweeping the floor?" And this story is a microcosm of what has happened to children across the whole country. Are you comfortable with this portrayal of childhood today? So let me further set the scene by showing you this. This is who we're talking about. You may not see it very easily, and I don't have a slide, but it is a beautiful, human, newly born citizen. She's only a few hours old, but she's demonstrating an amazing ability to manipulate her parents by the eyeball-to-eyeball gaze, which we know is the key biological trigger for attachment. So 2 questions immediately. Why should we care about children? And secondly, what are their needs? Children must be important because of the old age dependency ratio. We're experiencing a massive increase in older people living longer. So who is going to provide the country's wealth to support those people? The children today. So what do children need? They need to be healthy, educated, creative, resilient, and happy with the life skills to thrive as successful adults and parents of the future. That's the economic argument. But there's a moral argument. What about those children who can't become parents or economic assets, those with disability or disadvantage? Surely, as a compassionate, caring society, we must make sure that every child has the best opportunities to thrive to his or her potential. So, what does a child need? I offer you the African proverb. It takes a whole village to raise a child, looking at policies and practices, celebrating what's good, but putting no punches on what isn't, especially political attitude to the importance of children compared with what I've seen in Finland, in Holland, in Spain, and Canada, where these countries are on a different planet in terms of how they see children in society. So, it takes a whole village to raise a child. What does that mean? It means the nurture of children should be everybody's business, especially in local communities. Parents and parenting's vitally important, yet we're not investing nearly enough in preparing young people to become parents. Families matter, and of course there are different structures to families, but what children tell me as Commissioner, families matter to me. They matter because they provide love and they provide security for me to thrive as an individual. So parents and families are important, but it's the local community that should also be relevant because faiths give purpose in life and address the uncertainties of the hereafter, etc. So what are faiths doing to support children and to support communities through their parishes? Very patchy, I can tell you. Some parishes are doing a really great job in supporting local families and children. Others, not on the plot at all. So faiths are important, all faiths, not just the Christian faith, but Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, etc. They've all got their values which children need to have. And then there is government. Local government, very important, and of course, national government, who has taxes to produce the revenues for investment. So I offer you the construct. It takes a whole village to raise a child. Go back to Victorian times when there was a population explosion, rampant destitution, prostitution for children. The plight of children was disastrous. It took a small number of social reformers who had courage to stand up and point out what society was doing for its children. They formed organizations, many of which are still present today, like the Children's Society, Barnardo's, etc., and they forced change, and they forced local communities to take responsibility for their people. And I do think that we're missing a trick here by not encouraging the development of community responsibility for people. A simple example. I don't know how many of you know about street pastors. Right? I've walked the streets between 10 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock in the morning with street pastors. They are wonderful people, in this case supported by a range of churches, not just the Anglicans, but ecumenical churches, supporting people to get on the street and meet people who are in serious difficulty. The night I was there, I think we prevented a young woman killing herself. Now, this is an example of how motivated people can come together to address a common good. So why don't we encourage the development of communities? And parishes, in my view, have got a crucially important role to play. Are they doing it?